Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ground Up Podcast. My name is Matt Walton, here with our co-host again, Matt Huber. How you doing today, Matt?
Great, man. How are you?
Doing great. Guys, we got an insane guest today. Someone who has a massive following and a insanely successful company as well. Jason Miller, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me, guys. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, so I'm just happy to be here. Happy to talk about some of the stuff, and happy to get some of what I'm experiencing off my chest for people to hear, people to experience. So, man, I'm just blessed to be here with you guys. Honestly, I'm in like a sandwich between two handsome men, so I don't know if that's how it looks on your side, but I'm like squished
Not
into
the
like.
first time for you, is it,
I'm
Jason?
just trying to match up to you guys, you know.
Yeah.
No, you look great, man. But you run Worldwide BDC. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How you got started into it and where it's grown to today?
Man, so Worldwide BDC, we're a business development center. What we do is just set appointments for dealerships. And how we do that is by really gravitating on scripting, building demand over the phone, creating contact, and ultimately setting the appointment. So I think the biggest issue in the dealership space is fine-tuning the right people in the right department. So I think one of the biggest problems in the stores right now is that they can't find people to make outbound phone calls. It's like a desolate area. It's like, let's just put the sales guy that comes in on time, let's put him in the BDC for him to make phone calls, bring customers into the building. And what has happened is historically, it's like, let's put our weakest player in the strongest spot. So what we've done is built the strongest players in the strongest spot. So Worldwide BDC primarily just focuses on internet opportunities and phone pops. What phone pops are when a customer calls a dealership looking for a vehicle. What we do is just sauce them up, tell them to come in, give them a reason why they need to come in, build demand over the phone, and ultimately set the appointment. So the journey of Worldwide is kind of crazy. So I started Mats with an S, right? You got to do that.
Yeah.
So the journey really start at the dealership. So a guy called me. He's like, "Hey, why don't you come work for us?" I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm good. I got a great job." He's like, "No, you need to make more money. You got the skills, the tenacity, you got the charisma." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Let's try to figure this out." And I was given the opportunity to work at a dealership. About 3 months in, a guy comes to me and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to start my own company. I want you to be the first employee to it." I'm like, "First of all, I just got hired here. I quit the best job I ever had. And now you want me to quit again to go start a job?" I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm out.
Yeah.
Call my dad. I'm like, "Yo, Pops, these people got me. They bamboozled me. I'm in a situation that's tight. What do I do?" He's like, "Well, if a guy wants to start a company, he's seeing something you don't see." He's like, "Whatever your mirror is saying to you is not what his mirror is saying back to him." So he's like, "You need to take a chance on what you're doing." And being a man of faith, I prayed on that. And then I started a company just like this one with someone else. Left that company, started this one, but on a different foundation. And the foundation that we built this on, I would believe, is more orientated to people. So we have this guardrails at our company: people are our hearts, generosity is our privilege, excellence is our spirit, honor is our calling, passion is our pursuit. And really, our mission is just to be the number one people-centric company in the automotive industry. Yeah. Not to be the greatest, not to be the biggest, but we just believe if we focus more on people, the overflow to that is just success in the automotive industry. So that's just like a little bit of the story of how we got started. Yeah. But I will tell you this: it's all about the people. It always will be about the people. And we're just going to focus more and more on that and the faith that we have with the company.
I want to take it back just a little bit because what you said is interesting, that you had one of the best jobs you've had. You're making a bunch of money. You're doing really well in this job. But somehow someone convinced you to completely leave that and start something, or go to somewhere else, and then obviously start something else. So what, in your mindset, what did he call you and say that really, besides maybe it was money, maybe it just was that, what did he call you and really say to get you away from a really good paying job and a job you're really happy with to go and make this huge switch?
Man, that's such a good question. No one asked me that one before. I don't think it's what he said, it's what I felt. Okay. It's like I was praying and asking God, I need more, I want more. The job I was at before, 3D Card, I was the number one employee for 2 years solid. Just number one. I tried to quit. They gave me a raise. They told me to come back. I came back, still number one, still wasn't satisfied, made more money. And I was just like, you know what? I think it's time to do something else. And then when he called, for me, I'm a faith guy. So sometimes I just believe God works through people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, maybe God is working through someone. And I knew that in life, when things get uncomfortable and it seems like there's a place of growth, I lean into it. So that was the moment I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity. It's not what he said, it's what God was telling me. I'm going to lean into the uncomfortable spot. But I
Yeah.
will not lie to you. I did not want to do that. And I honestly, in my mind, I still didn't want to do it, but I'm happy that I did do it.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's because I think what you just said is true. Because I think a lot of people have signs that come up in their life when God's like, you got to take this.
Yeah.
And they might have been praying for it like you have and wanting it, but when it comes up, it's scary. And you're like, and they run from that. And so you literally were like, no, like we gotta, something is here.
Yeah, there's this like Bible story, Matt. I don't know if you know it. It was like there's this guy that there was a flood, and there was this guy that was floating on in the water, and he was like, "I need God to save me." So a canoe came by, and he was like, "Hey, I'm here to save you." He's like, "No, I'm waiting for God." And then a helicopter came by and was like, "Here." He was like, "Hey, I'm here to save you." He's like, "No, I'm waiting for God."
Mhm.
The guy ends up dying, goes to heaven, and he's like, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, I did. I sent the canoe and I sent the helicopter. Why
Yeah,
didn't you jump in it?
yeah.
So I think it's like this place of like, you've got to really be, if you're not consciously looking for what God's doing in your life,
Hmm.
you're not going to expect what God's giving you. So once you see that there's someone trying to persist to pursue you, you should probably start thinking about maybe that's not a sign from people, it's a sign from God, and God's working through people, to people, for you. But Matt, you were going to say something, but that was just like a little biblical story that I've always had.
No, I think what you said is that it perfectly aligns into kind of the thing I take from that, which is when that comes to you, how do you make sure that you see it? How do you not miss it? How do you know this is God sending that message to you and not other things sending that message to you? How do you know that that's not some people testing you to leave a thing that your purpose could have been driven in? I ask that question to myself all the time. Is I think that for me in my life, and luckily now in my professional life, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've had some highs and lows, but man, I've learned so much more from the lows than I have from the
Mm,
highs. And
yeah.
but every part of that journey has made me who I am today. And I think there's a lesson to be learned at every part of that journey. So whether it's like the lowest part of my professional career, and Jason, I've shared this with you, and Matt, I know you and I've talked about this a lot, but the lowest part of my professional career is the best thing that ever happened to me. And that was I got got laid off from a job because the mortgage industry crashed in 2008, and it humbled me to go and remove my identity from my career being my identity, and made me go back to a place where I had to kind of start over back in collections, and
Mm,
and take a job from a guy who was my boss, who used to be a guy who used to dominate at a job next to me. um,
mhm.
but if I didn't ever do that, I wouldn't have been in a position that I met my wife. That
Oof.
me having losing my job, reestablishing my value system, not in my career, but back into myself, put me in a place put me in a place in my life to be able to be introduced to my wife. And that meeting of my wife changed my whole perspective on who I could be, because I was a guy at 28 years old who'd never been on a plane before. Um,
Wow.
and within a year of meeting my wife, I found my next career. I entered into sales. I was very successful at sales immediately in this job where you sell direct TV inside of these retail stores. Within 6 months, I relocated up to Northern Virginia, back to Richmond, Virginia, to Augusta, Georgia, to Dallas, all within less than a year, with my wife standing behind me, pushing me, believing in me more than I could believe in myself. But if I didn't have that woman
Mm,
behind me, pushing me, then I would have never done anything to get out of my comfort zone. So as I reestablished my foundation, which if you look at it from a surface level, it's like, man, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me professionally. But all of those things were the step back you take to take 10 steps forward. So Jason, for you,
mm,
I know, you've got, I'm sure, ups and downs. You mentioned starting the other BDC company, doing that with a partner, creating worldwide. I know your story, but there were some ups and downs, even with Worldwide, with people you worked with, people you did business with. Talk a little bit more about the things that you've learned in your path, some of the goods, some of the bads, but where you've learned from all of those across the way.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna. The first question you had was, um, what made me make the decision to leave the job, and what was the thought process to that? I will tell you, the only reason why I wanted to make that transition is because I was looking for the alignment of what God wanted me to have, and then I went straight into the closet of prayer, right? And then I'm trying to just figure out exactly where God wants to take me, and it's just aligning with that. But I've learned in my life there's a lot of things that I want, but there's only some things there's only a couple of things God really wants me to do. But yeah, you're right, man. There's so many highs and lows. I mean, just last year we went through a low where the transition of COVID was like scarcity of no one, cars are $10,000 over MSRP. If you can find it, buy it. And
Yeah.
now it's just like, there's so many cars on the lot. We don't really need you, but it's like, you really didn't need me then. But now it's like, wait, we're making less profit. Why should we pay you more now? Let's just cancel and do it ourselves. So it's like this moment of dropping. And it's like, wait, is it us? Is it you? Is it the industry? Where do I go? But I think it's just being steadfast and faithful, man. Surrounding yourself with good people, and people that want to see you succeed and the company succeed. So what I really do is like, I get the company off of who I am in moments of distress. It's like, it's not my company, it's ours. Like, we are housed here. We don't get to be here. We don't have to be here. We get to be here. We get to be here because God's given us a talent. God has given us the ability to work really hard. So let's come together, figure out why God put us here, and let's just get ourselves out. But it's like the story of Moses. It's like God gave him the power to part the seas, but he didn't give him the time to get to the promised land. His son got him there. So it's just like there's always going to be the high and the low, and in the life and journey. But one of the ones that comes to my mind, Matt, I think what changed. There was a moment in my life that changed me from being the man I am today to the man I was before. And it wasn't a God moment, but I believe once again, God used people God used people to show me this. But so I was 10 years ago, I was valeting cars. Okay. I was making $400 a week. Okay. I knew I was a hard worker. I quit a job before. I was new to faith. God was like, leave this job. I'm like, God, I'm making $1,500 a week here. You don't want me to do that, do you? Yeah, I do. He said, what you're doing is not right. Okay, fine. I'll go get the little job then that you want for $400. I don't know what I'm going to get done here. I don't know why you put me here, but I'll just go here. Whatever. So I'm valeting cars, and this one day I'm valeting and I'm running. I'm trying to be the best employee I can. And next thing you know, my best friends pull up, and they're driving. And obviously, I'm not driving a nice car at this time. My best friend pulls up, driving the brand new GT Mustang, black on black, looking like Batman just rolled into the building. And he's like, "Oh, what's up, Jay? You work here?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. Let me get the door for you." He's like, "Oh, you're doing valet?" He's like, "You doing this for side cash?" I'm like, "Nah, man. It's my main squeeze right now." And he's like, "Okay, well, yo, here are my keys. I was like, "Yo, let me park this up for you." Boom, another guy comes in that I've known for years. They're like, "Yo, you work valet? I thought you had that good job." I was like, "Nah, man. I'm doing this." And man, so I'm parking these cars, and they're nice vehicles that these guys have. They're all it's just like, come on, baby. I'm driving the Mazda 3, and they're driving the Acuras, the nice whips. And I'm like, yo, I got to get back in my game, in my bag. And I called my wife, and I was crying. I'm crying. And I'm like, babe, I'm literally parking the cars and these people that I used to be with. Like, why is God putting me here?
Yeah.
Like, why now? And I realized years later that God wanted me to first be a servant before I became a leader. He wanted me to know what it was to hold the car door open on the lowest part of my life. So when I got to the higher parts of my life, I would still be able to hold that door. So yeah, I'm the one who picks up the trash at work. Yeah, I'll be the one to take the garbage out at work. Yeah, I'll be the one to have the tough conversations, because I realized when I was the one opening the door for you, I'll still be the one to open up the door for you later. So I think God, the personality type that I have, I feel like I'm like, let's go, rah, rah, rah. I'm the guy, number one salesman. And God was like, you need to take all that, because that's not for me. And I need to deposit compassion. I need to deposit faithfulness. I need to deposit relationships into you. And really, I think that was what changed me in my leadership style. So when we say generosity is our privilege, it's not a financial thing I'm talking about, which it is part, but it's time.
Yeah.
It's like it's giving, not keeping, that leads to receiving. So I've learned in my life, I rather give than receive. And I go by this quote: before I touch the hand or ask for the hand, I first touch the heart. So those are some of the leadership things that came into my life. And I believe that's why I'm running a company now. And I think that's why I'm able to lead 150 plus people, is because of the leadership style. I think everyone's looking for that. I think everyone's looking for authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone's looking for someone who has compassion. And I feel like people look at the boss as this guy that has no compassion, can't get down to where I'm at, my season. But it's like, no, I want to go right to your season. I want to connect right where you're at. Doesn't matter where I'm going, it's where we're going together. So that's just one of the biggest struggles I had in my life. But that was it for me. And the guy was, funny enough, the both of them work here now, under the leadership, which is crazy. But that's just how life is, man. But faithful and honest about it, and they laugh about it at dinner all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you said is true about your leaders. You can 100% tell if they've never done the job you're doing, or at least
Yeah,
never gone through what you've gone through. You can tell immediately if they've never done that. The best leaders, I think, in the world have gone through the mud and now can pull
yeah,
you with them because they've gone through it, they've experienced, they know what you're going through on a day-to-day basis. They can talk to it. So yeah, the experience you had was for a reason. And I'm glad you see that way too as well. I mean, that's something that God put you through. So I'm interested in it because me and Matt, we run separate companies. We also run a company together. And
yeah,
leadership is something that, as you know, in these businesses, you have to be a strong leader because it goes up and it goes down, just like we talked about earlier. Like you have months where you're crushing it and months where things are hard. And
yeah.
with me and my wholesale business, like we can have months where, like, if we don't close deals, we don't make money. And so, like, and that's hard to stick with. So tell me about your style when it comes to that. When things are struggling, like, like maybe clients are canceling, your employees are losing money, things like that. How do you continue to build up the morale and keep people going on the direction that you want to head?
Grab the mirror and look in it. Let's all look at what's going on. It's not a me. I'm not the problem. You're not the problem. We're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just look in the mirror, see where the mud is, and fix it. But for me, it's like the more people you bring on the journey with you, the harder it is to fall. If it's you by yourself, having these tough conversations, going through it by yourself, number one, people, life is Genesis chapter 1 or chapter 2. God created man and a female, but before he created a female, man was bored, right, and lonely. What it just showed me is that life was never supposed to be endured alone, but enjoyed with people.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people are here now. We're supposed to be people that rely on people. So when hardship comes, or diversity comes to us, it's time just to huddle, get back on the same page, and really just talk to the hard points. I read this book called The Five Dysfunctions of a Team.
Mm-hmm.
And really what the five dysfunctions did, it was just taught me, like, oh my goodness, I'm dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the leader of the organization needs to sit down and say, look, the dysfunction comes from me. The 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. The law number one says, number one is the law of the lid. The company can only grow as much as the leader that's in it. So if the company is going this direction, it's time for the ceiling to be raised by the owner. And then that owner needs to bring those people up to where he's at to honestly push through. But tough times are, I mean, how do you negate it? You know what I mean? It's like we can, man. Here's the thing too that I was telling the team a little bit ago. Hey, we're on the mountaintop right now, and I tell them that, like, we're on the mountaintop. We're doing great, but I've never had a mountaintop that had a bunch of grass on it. I've never seen the mountaintop with livestock on it, and I've never seen the mountaintop with a lot of oxygen on it. We need to somehow get off this mountain. We need to go back down and back in the valley again. We need to figure out how to get off the top of this thing, because being at the top is not good. It's desolate. It's lonely. It's isolated. We need to figure out how to keep climbing up the mountain again, getting back to the grass, getting back to the vegetation. So for me personally, it's like just grouping the team together, figuring out where the dysfunction is, attack the dysfunction. Doesn't mean you fire anyone. Doesn't mean you get rid of anyone. It just means we got to start talking to the situations and the problem, not talking to the people, talking to the problem. Get the magnifying glass off of people, put the magnifying glass on the problem, and then put that magnifying glass on the solution. That is the only way you'll be able to get out of a tough situation in business.
So I heard this. I don't remember who it was. Listen to, I think it was a podcast the other day, and they were talking about. I think it was Mark Anderson on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about why Elon Musk is such an effective leader, running so many successful companies. And it's not that he just stays at the top and micromanages everybody. He actually is really, really good at hiring people that are better at everything than he is, and then he is an incredibly effective problem solver. So when there is a problem in this department, he goes in and puts all of his attention into that problem, fixes it, point it in the right direction, make sure leaders are there that can run that better than he could, and then goes, finds the next problem and solve and solve and solve. And Matt and I, a couple months ago, we were meeting with this consultancy firm who wanted to consider consultancy and give them half of the equity of our company to give us advice on this. And we ended up not using them. But one thing I really took from them is one of the guys that led that team said to me and Matt and said, I get the impression that you guys are the smartest people in your business. And you don't have other people that do things that you can't do in your business. You might have people that are like you in your business, but not people that do other things. And that was a eye-opening experience for me to have somebody tell me that, to have somebody say, if you're as good of a leader as you think you are, then you don't need to just have people who are junior versions of you, but you need to be able to lead people who don't think like you, who don't have the same strengths as you, that can supplement you. And the best leaders are ones that have people that are more talented around them, so that you can then be the best leader of the individual talented people. And as you said, what you said, Jason, one of the things that came to my mind, which is, and this applies to business, it applies to marriage, it applies to a lot of that as three married men, is you don't have a marriage until you've gone through struggle. Because until you've gone through struggle and overcome that, you really don't have a marriage yet, because you've never been tested in that aspect. And you don't have a business until you've had those lows and know that you have the team, the support structure, and the mentality to overcome that. But there's nothing more powerful than a marriage who's overcome struggle, than a business who's overcome challenges and then climb that mountaintop. Because when you get to that mountaintop, the appreciation of that is something that is even more valuable. So for you, Jason, like, as I say that, what kind of goes through your head is like, maybe what's the biggest obstacle you've overcome with Worldwide to get you where you are now? Because I know that you and I spoke the other day and you're like, man, it's just, fortunately, we're being blessed. The business is flying. But with that, there's a lot of other things that are going on. But talk to me a little bit about what's the biggest objective you've overcome and kind of how you got to where you are today.
I think one thing is I was trying to be the man of the people, not above but equal. But I think there's a point where you just the owner and the leader you just got to separate, and then you got to look back at who you're working with. I think what happens is, a lot of time as leaders and as business owners, what we do is we grab people and we hope they're good for the position, and we put them in a place where they're actually not going to grow. My grandfather was a botanist, and he always talked to me about good soil, like where to put an orchid, where to put a palm tree, where to put another tree, or another plant. And he's like, all the soils, that some grow better in sand, but some grow better in mud. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I took that same thought into business, and I'm like, the people that I had in these positions, in the first few years, I put the wrong people in the wrong place, not knowing that I was hurting the company and hurting them. And really, it was for me to know. I was hoping, and here's the thought. I stopped falling in love with the potential of the people that I'm with, and I started falling in love with the reality. I realized that I can't change the people. They have to change for themselves. What I can do is put you in the right position, in the right place that you can exceed in. And then at that point, I can speak to your potential. But I can't speak to your potential if I personally didn't give you where your potential grows. So for me, one of the hardships that I think that I went through was putting people in a position that they were not made or created for. Once I put them in the position that what I believe they were created for, Worldwide for, the company's growth just started growing. The identity of them became stronger. Their passion for what they did in that department became stronger. Them wanting to come to work became more passionate. It was just an overflow. And right now, speaking openly, I'm in it right now. I'm waiting to see what the next season is. But I think now that we finally put the right bodies in the right places, now I'm starting to add layers onto it. Okay, now that you're in this position, I get you out of that, because here's the reality: you got to get. Some of them can't stay in the same position forever,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like, how do I get you out of it? Now we build structure below it. Now they're trying to get those people to live up to their expectation. So I think right now it's just the journey of finding where talent needs to be placed. And I think it's just knowing who you're surrounded by. Stop falling in love with the potential of what someone can be, and just fall in love with the reality of where they're at, and then figuring out where to put them from there.
It's funny you say this, Jason, because right now Matt and I are in the season of, I would identify our season of duplication. And what I mean by that is, one of the things that I learned really early in that job I told you about, the way I sold DirecTV, is one of the things I loved about it is they taught you first how to lead the way, set the pace yourself and be a great salesperson. But then the next step of that was duplicate yourself. And if you never were able to duplicate yourself, you could really never grow to actually be a leader and actually grow in that way. And I knew that for me, one of the strengths I've always had was to be able to identify a system-based offense that would allow me to duplicate myself and recreate myself and other people. And Matt and I are in a place where our business has grown really, really well in the last 6 months. But what we hadn't done probably a good job is, because it's grown so big, we added so many people. I mean, Jason, we've added, I think, over 90 people in the past 6 months to our organization. And we didn't have, outside of Matt and I, the actual structural integrity to justify that growth outside of him and I. So one of the things that him and I have had a lot of conversations with over the past week, which is duplicating ourselves. So I hired a junior me. He hired a junior him, and the objective is to go one person at a time and just duplicate ourselves, and then teach the people that we're duplicating how to duplicate themselves. And through that, I think, is really where we can create the next versions of us within the business, while still having the opportunity to be created through that. I know your team. I've met your team. I've been to your office. I've seen the culture. I think you've got
Your team lifted him up off the ground.
literally, no, not his team. One big dude picked me up, hit my head on the roof almost, and there's a video that we have of that as well. But
Run it on the side clip.
You do a fantastic job is recreating yourself, and you recreate yourself through actions, not just words. And I've seen the recreations you've had, and not just like an exact model of, but pieces and parts of you in that regards. When you're looking at the potential of people, what is it that you pay attention to? What is it you look for? And who do you decide to mentor and groom into create your next versions of you as your business grows?
Yeah, so it got to the point where, like, I felt like a lot of people wanted to be mentored or to be in that situation. But a lot of things, the certain things have to be in line to be mentored. Time. It's like, if you're not available, you already failed the first step of leadership, which is availability, right? So if you're available, I can teach you, but then you have to be receptive. I know that anyone even watching this podcast, you're probably only going to retain 30% of it, maybe 50% at most. You'd have to take notes to come back to it. So, but what I'm looking for is someone that is going to take 60 to 80% of what I say in a conversation and apply it to their life immediately, like an immediate application. But number one, to even be on that journey, first and foremost, three qualifications. One, you've got to work more than 60 hours a week. Why? Because I promise you, there's a lesson to be learned in hard work. Yes, I'm talking 6 days a week. Okay, that's not your season. It's not the time for me to teach you. I need you to understand what hard work feels like. If you don't understand that, you won't understand why my mind thinks the way it does. You just won't gravitate to it. The second thing is the gym. I'm just a big believer in the gym. It's for some, it's for, I don't know. There's just something that I believe.
Listen to what he says here, okay?
Yeah.
Call me out.
I just believe that if you want to be consistent, start it at the gym. You want to be disciplined, start it at the gym. I have never woke up in the mornings like, I can't wait to go. Like, there's zero tolerance of that. It's like, ugh. But when I'm here, I'm ready to go, right? And I believe there's a level of discipline you have to have. So that's two parts, right? Working 60 hours a week for hard work, right? Two is creating discipline through working out. And three is foundation. That means you don't have to go to my church, but you got to go to church. Now, hey, listen, I'm just telling you, if you don't understand where my foundation is, how are you ever going to understand who I am? It's impossible. The things I'm going to mention to you, you're not going to understand. You're not going to take it in. It's just going to be in the ear, out the other. So that 60 to 80% retention of what I'm saying can only be developed if those three things are accompanied. So I do have a couple people I would want to say. One specific that I can definitely say he's under mentorship, and he's a young man in that route. But that's what I've been doing, Matt, for someone. And I think he's going to do great. I think he's doing a great job. If he can hang on to it, there's going to be a lot to learn. And my goal truly is I hope that he's a better version of myself.
Does he know who he is listening to this?
He'll probably know if you heard it. He probably would. I mean, it's very specific. He knows exactly what time it is. And we give out free gym memberships here. So I know I know for sure if he's going to the gym. And he goes to the same church. So I know for sure if he's there on Sunday. And I know his hours. So I know for sure how long he's working. So, I mean, he can't really escape that fundamental fact. But I will tell you, I'm blessed to even have someone to acknowledge me in that light. But I just hope I hope for myself that I can lead people in the right direction. But I think God has put me and my wife in a position to have the capacity to lead. So I just think that it's time to pour out. I felt like God has poured a lot into me with my pastor and some of the friends that I have. So that's just kind of where I'm at when it comes to mentorship.
Yeah, so you said one thing earlier that I want to touch on, and I think that's important, is you can have some of the greatest people in your organization, but they could be in the wrong position.
Oh, yeah.
And so I want to know what your process is, because I don't know if you do this at the beginning before you hire them, you understand where they should be, or do you put them in place and like, you know what, I found out who you are. I know that where you should be. So what's your process in trying to get these people that are great for your business into the right position?
Man, honestly, the 5 dysfunctions, they started the book off with like the first day that they did this meeting, they had like a personality test. Mm-hmm. First, let's just start at square one. Who the hell are you? You know, like, who do you love? Are you friends with your mom, your dad? Like, you don't like your parents? Like, why? Like, are you an executor? Are you a visionary? Are you detailed? Like, what are you? Mm-hmm. And through that, like, here's the deal. Everyone has a capacity. Everyone on this podcast has a capacity, but I also need to know where your capacity is. So there's 3 different buckets I put everyone in. Okay. Vision, execution, and like process. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now our floor has all 3 of those things, right? Vision is someone that needs to be at the helm or in a creative space. So I need that person not in the motions. Like, I need to do this, need to do this, need to do this, need to do this. No. You need to be in a spot where you can think outside the box and you can start growing. Mm-hmm. That's number 1. So that's vision. Now, people can have minors and majors of these things. So then there's execution. You just know that dude's going to get the job done. Yeah. Like he's going to get it done. He won't even tell you he's losing until he's winning. Mm-hmm. I don't even care if, like, don't tell me part way. Just tell me when you get there. That's my leadership style. I don't care how you get there ethically. You got to be ethical, but just get there, right? So there's vision, execution, and that person with execution, I believe, is the best 2 a company can have. And the funny thing is, the visionary maybe get the credit, but I promise you, the person that executes is getting the satisfaction, mm-hmm. Truly, because they're the one that feels like they're moving and the wind's behind the sail. The third one is the process or detail, right? You need someone in your organization to bring you detail. I am a major and minor. I think of myself as more of an execution than vision, but people will say I'm bigger vision than I'm execution. I've been with a bigger visionary where I lived in his shadow for a long time. So I see what a big vision looks like. So I practice visionary. Mm-hmm. Execution is something that I believe, if you give me a task, I promise you, I'm going to get it done at the 100%, mm-hmm. 110% and give you more back. But when it comes to process, I realized I had to know my weakness. So I had an executive assistant that is much more process and detail driven. So she's process and detailed with execution. Perfect match. So any vision I say, it's written down, it's typed out. Hey, I did this, by the way. I'm like, what did you do? I put this, and this here. It's like with a process and it's detailed. I'm like, perfect. You know? So I think finding the skills and the traits of these people, knowing where they are in those three fundamental buckets will be a really good placement of where to put them. And then there's this other part. Are you good with people? Now, if you're not really good with people, you can still execute. You just can't execute through people. Right?
Define that
So if you're good with
people part. Define that good with people.
What do you mean?
What does that mean to you? Like, what does good with people mean?
If you find yourself in a situation where you're not mentoring someone, you're just not good with people. Someone that is good with people is always leading someone. Just look at it that way. If you have people in your, if you're not the one that's getting the phone call about the bad breakup, then you're just not that person that people want to hear your wisdom from. You know what I mean? But then there could be the person that you maybe give the advice, but it's the advice they want to hear. But real leaders are people that are that. I mean, me personally, I'm calling the person that's going to disagree with me because I need to hear that point of view. Does that make sense? So I think the person, so the executor that's good with people just needs to be in a place where he's able to communicate effectively with people because they've figured out a way to get someone from here to here. It's just, there's a word called sanctification. We're all in process. That person is just able to identify the process of the person and build them into the spot. So, but if you're someone who's not good with people, that's totally fine. You can still execute on parameters. Hey, we're going to give you a process job that you speak to people at the same level or class as you, where you're not in a position of speaking to someone below you. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So there's someone who can speak to people here, and there's someone who can speak to people here. Because that person wants to be challenged and rivaled.
Yeah, and why I asked that question is because, and Matt and I talk about this all the time, I probably struggle sometimes with having no problem challenging somebody, telling them what is my opinion, but also sometimes people don't want to hear that. They want to hear the mushy, likable. And I would say I'm not probably the most likable personality to some people like that because I don't kind of put the feelings in front of the real, to where there's other people that are probably more likable and care more about what people think of them from a likability perspective, which is probably always been either a strength or a flaw, depending on the setting of mine, is I don't really care how people think about me as long as the results of what I say and what my intentions are follow, if that makes sense.
Matt, can I throw this one back at you?
Sure.
And for the people that are watching this, I've had the opportunity to be with Matt. I understand his character. Matt is charismatic, but his character is way higher than that. He's a talented guy, but his character is way higher than that. He has the charisma, he has the talent, but his character is stronger. I promise he's an intellectual guy that will shoot between the nose.
Thank you.
I texted you the other day, maybe about a month ago, and I was like, "Hey, Matt, what could I have done better in this scenario?"
Yep.
And you didn't give me the mushy, you gave me the hard truth. That's, to me, shows two things. One, I was willing to go to the person that knew was going to make me feel like I knew I did something wrong, right? I was able to take that bit of information that you gave me and apply it to my current situation. And I think that's like leadership in 101. So to me, your style is what I need to hear. I need to hear a style like yours. You can't beat me up. I can only do that. When you say something, I just think it's a buildup. It's like, okay, identify, see, mirror, check, let's get back to it.
Yeah, I think it's another trait of a leader as well, is being able to reach out to people and say, "What did I mess up?"
Yeah.
And hearing that and say, instead of getting all frustrated about it, like, I don't want to talk to you no more. Like, and saying like, okay, I'm gonna apply that to my life and I'm gonna get better from that.
Yeah, but once you realize where the person's character is, you can ask the tough question. Matt's character wasn't going to leave me, and like, he knew me, he knows my character, so he wasn't going to say anything to me that was going to be rude, disrespectful, or like try to bring me down. He was just, because I knew he's a blunt guy, he's just going to tell me, "Hey, this is what it is, and this is how you're going to have to take it." Right? So, but first, for someone to hear something, negative criticism for someone, you first had to show me your character. Without that, I'm not listening to you. So if you're out there doing some negative things, you're married, but you're on to doing this, and now you're with people, but you're talking down, like, you're never going to hear from me. I'm never going to take advice from you. You're not even doing the fundamental things.
Right.
Real quick on this, and this is going to shift out of that. And first off, I appreciate those words you said about me. I appreciate that.
No problem, bro.
And only reason I would give you that direct feedback is because I respect you and respect the fact that you asked that question, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I've seen in you, and like I said, we've had an opportunity to work together and speak for the past year and a half pretty closely in different periods of our time. One of the things I've seen your company grow is around the focus around social media. And one of the things that I am impressed that you're doing that I think not a lot of people have the nuts to do in today's world, which is lead with faith first. I come from a corporate background, quite a bit more corporate than you. And I've always learned to stay away from politics, to stay away from divisive topics like faith, like religion, like politics, like those other things that could be considered divisive, because you're in a HR, human resources world, and you really leaned into the thing which you said, which is the culture and the you used the word earlier, and it's no, I'm not catching it, but there's a word that you talk about all the time, which is just being able to expose who you really are, what your company is really about, and being able to show that through your people. Say it again.
Unapologetic of what we believe.
Absolutely. And so what was your and maybe there is no like direct intentions behind your thought process, but your intention to start doing your Sunday, the Sunday Bibles thing that you do where you read passage on your social media. I understand the idea of showing your really talented reps and kind of the culture you have and asking the questions around, does the music motivate you or not type of stuff. But the shift into also showing the faith-based side of your business. I know you run a prayer Wednesday where you're having prayer in your office. I know you do that, and all of that stuff is great inside the walls. But to then show everybody else who might consider working with you that this is who we are, what was your thought process? And was that a big jump for you to get there, or it was just, this is who I am, I'm unapologetic. If you like it, great. If you don't, then don't.
Matt, that was probably one of the biggest moves I made internally for social media, and probably one of the bigger moves I made. I was so scared because I was scared to show people who I really was, and then I was like, why am I so nervous to be who I am? If you don't want to work with me, I probably didn't want to work with you. And it's not in a bad way that I'm saying that. It's just that I've learned that in life, being married after 10 years, there's what called boundaries. I'm willing to build those. I'm willing to expose who I am. And if you don't like who I am, it's totally okay. But for those people that are looking for someone like that, I just want to let you know that we're available. And our Sunday talks were not really focused on gravitating and getting business. Our Sunday motivation was literally just to talk to people about, hey, there's more than just work available for you. There's more than that. Life is more than that. One of the things, Matt, that I've fasted. I did like a really big fast in the beginning of the year, and my whole fast was, when you own a company, you start making more money. That's just the reality, okay? But I realized I'm not more happy now than I was before. So I thought after the cool suits, the background, the company, the cars, clothes, shoes, watch, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep happy tonight and talk to my wife. Hey, babe, you see everyone looking at my watch? It's not even who I am. So it was like, what I wanted to figure out why I wasn't so happy. And I was like, I'm on this journey of personally is like falling in love with the intangibles and not the tangible things of life. So this whole journey that I've been on is finding things that are intangible, something that you can attach faith and hope to. And I feel like a lot of people that are on the internet, scrolling down LinkedIn and all these social media platforms, it's like, man, there's no hope anywhere. There's no reason of why you do things. Why is it that you love work? Like, people are scrolling in LinkedIn and I love working hard and beefing it up. It's like, hey, man, that's exactly what God created man for. Matter of fact, if you're wondering why you're working really hard and why you love working so darn much, it's because it's in the second chapter of the whole Bible. Man created God to work the garden. Holy smokes, our identity was to work, to name the animals. Like, so if you're wondering why you're out there in the world and you're trying to figure out things, but then you're alone because you're working so hard, God created a woman so that you could have life and life abundant with people. So I just feel like people are on this rat race of life in this hamster wheel. They don't know why they do things. They just do it. And they think it's because they were just made this way. You definitely were. But there's someone who made you with intentionality. There's someone who made you with character. And I think that our Sunday talks really, man, are just to let people know that there is hope, there is faith. If you find yourself in that rat wheel of life, there is a purpose. God's building character in the season. God is building foundation in the season. So we just wanted to come out and just say, hey, listen, if we're wondering why we're so successful, maybe that's what you think. Let me just show you the plain example of the reason why we are so successful. It's not because we thought that we were the greatest thing since sliced bread and the tire. We just believe that there's someone who gave us that ability, and we're just willing to connect with it.
You brought up, you said something about why, and I think that's really important because you said you can work all the time, you can do all these different things, but why? And so as you're growing and as you're getting bigger and as you're scaling and as you're creating this business and everything, has your why from the beginning, why you wake up in the morning, you do things, has it changed over time or has it always stayed the same?
Well, that's really good. That's really good. The why. Yeah, it has. I think the why in the beginning was I just want to make money and be successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you figured out that maybe like the season I'm in, it's like success is not making me happier,
Mm-hmm.
the why changed. So it's like, why not find something intangible to live on or live through? So, yeah, the why's changed for me.
Yeah.
Stop living for myself and living for others. And it's so weird that the company grows when you change that mindset.
Yeah.
It's not about, it's so weird.
It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. There's gonna be some people that are listening to this podcast that have never made any money, right? And what making money is there's levels to that game, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell this to a younger version of myself or some of the younger people that I employ or mentor or just that are friends of mine. And I'll tell them I cannot express to you that money does not make you happy. It can protect you from things that will make
Yeah.
you unhappy, but it won't make you happy. And when you make money, you realize that material objects are create temporary happiness. And when you find happiness through material objects, and the problem you're going to have to do is continue to buy more material things to continue to hit that dopamine thing. But when you can find a foundation of happiness in the little story your little girl tells you about the thing that happened at school, or the dinner you have with your wife, or
Yeah.
the Super Bowl party that you and a couple of friends just have and get to know each other, or the being there for the small things. That's really where, in my opinion, for me, where happiness is. Now, the thing that I've learned in my career is I've had a lot of individual times where I've found myself to be individually successful. But for me, running that race by myself is not half as enjoyable as doing it with people that you love. So whether that's my wife who's right there behind me, cheering me along and throwing me a high five every win I get, or whether that's a guy like Matt who runs the race next to me, and when we are able to, make a win, we win together, and there's nothing better than doing that. But I tell you, for me, the thing I've gained the most professional happiness from is helping develop other people. So for me, what I've learned is I had to
Yeah.
be proficient enough on my own skills to hone that side and that we were talking about earlier, but now to take that and transition that into making the people around me better. That is where I find the most success and the most enjoyment out of watching somebody like Matt, who I met 4 years ago. By the way, Matt, it was 4 years ago this week
Wow.
that I met you, to see you go from where you were as an employee to who you are as an entrepreneur. And to think if I had any part in that growth, man, that's something that I get super excited about. And obviously there's a variety of people that I hope that they say I played a part in that growth. That is the thing that gets me the most excited, the most motivated. And that I'll work 7 days a week, 15-hour days to be able to do that with more people. Now
Matt, you know that.
go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You know the parable of the talents.
No.
The parable of the talents is there was this. It's a parable that Jesus was talking about, and it's so crazy. This parable of the talents. Now, when I'm going to say this story, think of talent as time, talent as money, and talent is something that you have that you're talented with. So there's a shepherd that goes into town. Will say, I'm paraphrasing a lot of this, so like, leave me in context. Don't leave me in the context of it.
Okay.
I'm adding a little bit to it. So there's this a guy that goes into town, and he goes to the first guy and he goes, "Hey, my yoke is easy. I'm a good shepherd. I'm going to give you 10 talents." So he gives the guy 10 talents. Goes to the next guy, gives the same guy, says the same thing, gives him 5 talents. He goes to the next guy and gives him 1 talent. I think the Bible says it's like a lifetime, or he comes back. Somebody like 15, 20. I don't really know how that goes. I'm not the pastor of the church, but so he goes away for some period of time and comes back, and he goes to the guys and says, "Hey, what did you do with the 10 talents I gave you?" And he's like, "I multiplied them." And he goes to the next guy and he's like, "Okay, great. You did a great job with what I've given you." Goes to the next person. "Hey, what did you do with the talents that I gave you?" He's like, "I multiplied the 5 talents that you've given me." And he's like, "Great. You've done well with what you was given." And he goes to the third person. He's like, "What did you do with the talents that I given you?" And he's like, "I buried it." And he was like, "I thought you were mean or mad or coarse." And he's like, it's kind of like the version of like, "Depart from me, you never knew me," kind of thing. Like, if you didn't know that I was good, then you just didn't know who I was. But really, when you look at the story, right, God just gives us an image of like, not everyone was given the same amount of talents. And a lot of the times we look at other people and their talent and want what they have. Like, if you ask me, do I want to run the company? I'd say, kinda, but I'd rather be a number two, like I said before. Right. So I don't believe God has given everyone the same talent. What I think everyone does is compare themselves with people, compares themselves with everyone else's money, compares themselves with every other thing. But God has given you exactly what you need in your season. God is giving you something that you need to have, but you might be so focused on everything else, not knowing who God is, so you're unhappy in every season that you find yourself in. Maybe you just weren't made to have the 10 talents. Maybe you just weren't that person.
Mhm.
Maybe you're the one with 5. But I promise you, the person that had the 5 was happy with the 5 he was given. So I believe it's living in the confines of who you are. I'm not saying this to people to say, "Hey, uh, where you're at in your financial situation," but maybe like you're chasing finances so much that you're missing the point. You're missing the point of what God has given you. God has given you exactly what you need for you to be happy. The Bible says that only God knows God knows the heart. It says your heart is the most deceitful thing amongst all things. Then it says He knows the heart. So finding the treasure of that is finding what God wants for you in your season.
Yeah. So that's like, it can't be more than that's the most truthful thing in the world, because um, I'm always chasing more success in the business and more success in my life and everything. And the reason why is my why is my kids. It used to be like just myself and freedom. Now it's my kids and the freedom that they can have. And so I chase that a lot, and I'm worried. And I'm hitting phone calls at night, and me and Matt talk all the time, which I'm very thankful for. But sometimes I miss out. Like, I could have been hanging out with my kid for a second, instead of working a little bit longer. And so I see that all the time. So what you said was absolutely true. So if you don't mind, we're gonna jump into our lightning round here. So we're gonna finish this off with like about as many quick questions as we can. The goal of this is, obviously content is very important for us in order to get quick knowledge to people out there and to make sure that they can grab a clip and listen to it and get something from that. So that's what we're gonna run this with. Cool.
Let's go.
Matt, you got a question?
Yeah.
There you go.
So you made a change to adjust your content strategy. What is the most important thing you've learned as somebody who has a business that has a lot of focus around content? What's the biggest thing you've learned from that?
Content, being consistent, not being afraid or ashamed of who you are. Continue to strive through that. Your character will shine through, and just be unapologetic of what you believe and what you see from your people. Put them on full display. If people don't like who you are, you just don't need to do business with them.
So when we see, like, I see that clip, and hopefully we can get grab a clip of this when they lifted Matt up when he got to the office. But the fact that everyone inside your business was so excited, just in general, it seems like when they come to work. Can you give a few tips on how you build that culture within your company?
Culture is something that we focus on a lot. You can get points for not being part of the culture. So everything falls and rises on 2 things, I believe: leadership and the culture. So for us, it's like when Matt came in, he came in and we were like, part of the culture is just to be excited when people come. So we have people that we call culture carriers. So if you come to carry the culture, you're going to come to carry it. Some people just thrive in it, where they're not, yeah, rah, rah, rah. But some people live in it like, I just love the sound of it. But some
Yeah.
people can carry it. So I just think culture, everything falls and rises on culture. It is not on default why it's like that. It's on design why it's like that. I can tell you right now if you fit in or don't fit in. If the culture does this, I don't tell people to do this. The culture tells you to stand for the first hour of the day. The culture tells you to stand for the last hour of the day. It's not something I said, something they created. It's just culture.
So, what do you look for? What's the most important? If there's one characteristic you can find in a very successful BDC rep, what's the most important thing you look for?
Drive. Nothing else.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you're
let's
not
follow up to
if you're
that.
not committed,
If drive is the most important, how do you, in the interview and recruiting process, how are you able to determine that this person has more drive than the other?
one of the things that I always ask is, in an interview, I always ask them like weird questions. It's like, tell me one thing that you're struggling with that you want to overcome, and tell me one thing that you've overcame in the last 2 years. That just shows me where your drive is. What you say to me in that pocket of time of how you overcame that struggle or why you're still in that struggle shows me exactly where your drive level's at. If someone says, hey, listen, I'm going through a season where I'm trying to buy a house or I'm trying to do this, I haven't been able to do it. It's been 3 years. And I ask the question, why you haven't? Well, I haven't found a stable job. You don't have drive. You could have got it at the last job. You just didn't have the drive. So it's a pass. But if someone says anything that's kind of more, hey, right now I'm trying to overcome the thought of being more dialed in when I'm at work. I want to focus more. I want to study more. I want to get more hustle, the grind and the grit, things like that. Like if you tell me that, don't tell me what you want. Tell me what you're in process of. That's when I know I found someone. Hey, I'm trying to build character in this season. Hey, I need to be more disciplined in this season. That's when I know you got drive because you're not talking to what you want. You're talking to where you're at.
Awesome. So you talked about earlier, you said, in the business of people, and one of the biggest things that you take into your business here is making sure you're people focused. Can you give a few ways that you continue to keep that focus when you grow?
Yeah, I think what we want to do is just get smaller and smaller. The bigger you are, the smaller you need to become. My pastor said this a long time ago. The bigger the church gets, the more small groups we need to have. So what we've done is as the bigger we get, the more relational we get. So we set pools of people inside the stores, and then we have separate departments that have different people in it. So as many people as we get, as smaller as the company is going to become. So hopefully we can get down to as many teams as possible, groups of fives and things of that nature, but that's all in process. But the bigger you are, the smaller you become to stay relational.
When you're looking at your current team, you mentioned you have, I think you said about 150 plus people overall within your organization. Maybe that's a little different than that, but how do you determine, or what does somebody have to do within the business for them to jump out at you and you to say, this person I'm noticing, this is a person I want to feed into? Is it production based? Is it commitment based? Is it student mentality based? What is it that you look for in a person that you're like, I need to invest more time into this person?
Loyalty. If you're loyal to the company and loyal to me, you can grow. If you're not loyal, there's no way for me to grow.
That's the
It's
number
all
one
loyalty.
attribute for me too. Loyalty is more than anything else.
Period.
Yeah.
There's nothing more I can tell you. If you want to grow, how loyal are you to the company? And loyalty is shown in actions. So check it out. If someone is loyal to the company, they're going to produce. If someone's loyal to the company, they're going to, every call is going to be perfect. If someone's loyal to the company, they're not going to lie. They're not going to steal. They're not going to cheat. And what you're going to find is that because they're so loyal, they're going to start coming to you with people that are not. Hey, why are they doing that? Why are they doing it? Okay, you're seeing that. Did you say anything to them? No, I just wanted to bring it to you. Mm-hmm. I like that. I can grow with that. But then you got to check that person's stats too. Like, hey, are you actually doing what you need to be doing? But if they do, now it's time to pour.
Awesome. So what, I know you probably have a lot of big goals here, but what do you say, if you think about this a lot, what is your 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year goal?
1 year goal is to have a bigger perception on AI. Mm-hmm. I would love to have AI all over the place. Just I don't think the industry's ready for it yet. Mm-hmm. You said 5-year goal?
Yep.
I hope to not be working.
Yeah,
I hope to build a company.
And it's the last one. So you're not working at 5. What are you doing at the 10-year goal?
Back at work again, doing something else.
Okay,
No, it's
perfect.
interesting. I like that question, and the reason why I like that question is because there's some people who like they'll pull out a notebook and they're like, "Here it is." You know what I mean? Here's my goals, and then some people are just like, "You know what? I'm going." So just always interesting to see that which way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, hey, honestly, can I be honest with you? Can I give you like the non the let me give you the crazy answer. Wherever God leads, wherever God wants. That's the honest answer. Like I have no care of where I go. I'm
Yeah,
just gonna be with God and be happy wherever I'm at. My
yeah,
goals are His goals. So wherever He wants, He'll put in front of me. So if it's to sell the company in 5 years, manage to keep it for 10 years, I don't really know.
mhm,
I'm just gonna see what the signs of God has. I can tell you what I want. I would love to have more AI. I'd love to have more profit. I'd love to have more people. I'd love to grow the company. But if that's not, then that's totally okay with me. I have
yeah.
no problem with just being something else,
Awesome.
honestly.
So I have another question before we get to the last question. But Jason, I know something about you is you talk a lot about this, which is the kind of the old quote of Deion Sanders: "Look good, feel good, play good" type deal. I remember you telling me a story, or me hearing a story from a podcast you did, where you talked about day one of you showing up into that guy's apartment when you were creating that other BDC company, and you showed
Yeah.
up sitting at a desk working, but you were wearing a full-on suit. You firmly believe the way you dress is going to set the tone for how serious you take your day and how serious your day goes. I also know, in addition to that, how serious you take going to the gym and how the gym and your physical alignment that then comes to your mental alignment. Can we talk a little bit more, or have you talk a little bit more about why it's so important to look good, feel good, work good, all that kind of that
Hey,
latitude?
simple. I didn't dress for the position. I didn't dress for the position I had. I dressed for the position I wanted. Just boiled down to that. I was at a job, Matt. I was at a job prior to this where you could wear socks and sandals. You could wear short pants. You could dress however you want. I seen the boss come in dressing however he wanted, and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this mundane way of look, the way that we feel. Like I don't even wear a collared shirt. It's a crew neck, V-neck. Just I'm done. Hey, this is what I'm gonna do. Went to Perry Ellis, bought my first suit for 110 bucks. Okay, I bought another suit for another 110 bucks. Bought another suit for 110 bucks. I learned to mix and match the suits. Okay, so I got some blues and blacks and some navies. Put them all together. I had enough suits to last me 3 weeks. Right,
Mhm,
just because you can mix and match the colors. And
yeah,
I went to work in a suit. While everyone's in sandals, I'm in dress shoes. I'm uncomfortable. Me and another guy named Morgan, we used to call it choking. We would have a tie, but we'd put the tie so tight that we would, every time you look down, it's like, you have to readjust your neck. But
mhm,
honestly, it was, we just wanted to be so uncomfortable. We were so tired of being comfortable. And that's just what life's really about. It's like what people do is just they rather be so comfortable, they forget that being uncomfortable is where the growth is at. So, yeah, I go to the gym, and yeah, I believe that mindset is such a big portion of that. But if you ask someone to go to the gym, do you like going to the gym? They're going to say no. I mean, at least the dudes I talk to.
mhm,
I go to the gym because it makes me feel good. It gives me purpose. It gives me design. If I feel like I don't go to the gym, it feels like I didn't serve my body the way I should. And that's something that, like, God says, the body is the temple. What you eat, what you do with it, is ultimately what your body is. So, for me, it's just all mentality, man. I don't know. I don't know. Like, maybe I watched too much Kobe Bryant or something. Maybe I watched too much Michael Jordan. But I don't see those. Well, one of them's not alive, but um, if I can be faith based and be like that, I think that's the W right there. I think it's a
awesome.
winning mindset.
Yeah, we always ask this last question here. Um, at the end of the day, when Jason's done, he's retired, he's about to close his eyes for the last time. What do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, that's called tombstone living. I know this one at heart.
All right.
Man of God, husband, father, leader, Dunzo.
Nice.
That's it.
Awesome.
That's the tangibles.
Yeah.
That's the intangibles. I can't buy none of those. So for me, that's it. I call that the tombstone living.
Awesome, man. Jason, man, I had a great time talking to you, man. We learned a lot from this call. We're growing businesses over here, and it's so great to talk to somebody like you who's gone through a lot of different things. He's has the mindset you have, he has the unapologetic attitude of being who you are in front of everybody else in a world where it's hard to do that sometimes.
Come
Um,
on, man. So good.
so I appreciate everything, and I hope everyone, whoever's listening to this, got a lot of it, just like I did. So if you guys are listening, please like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell icon for the alerts, everything you can do to help us out here, and get Jason's podcast out there. If you can share it, that'd be great. Jason, thank you so much. Appreciate our time together.
Hey guys, thank you so much for bringing me on. Matt, you're phenomenal. Matt, you're phenomenal. I really appreciate it. Thanks for bringing me on the podcast. Being able to like let some of these things out that I always think about.
Yeah.
A lot of the questions you asked, Matt, were just detailed to me, and I really appreciate you giving me the platform, number one, just to speak on, and then just inviting me into your space, trusting me to speak on your podcast, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the content for myself, and on to the next one, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.